rounding third with home plate in sight. But even the best players need a coach to wave them in. Safe! Welcome to Perfect Game Retirement, hosted by Ryan Ledden, former pro baseball player, University of Georgia economics graduate, and now certified financial planner with Black Oak Asset Management. He's here to guide you through the final stretch and help you slide safely into a winning retirement. Play ball!
Welcome in. Glad to have you on another episode of Perfect Game Retirement. The day after college football kicks off, we're glad that you are here with us for this show. It's going to be a good one. We dive into a lot of financial planning, retirement planning conversations with the goal of providing some information, also educating you as well. We do that, as always, with Ryan Ledden at Black Oak Asset Management. He is the president and financial coach, also is a certified financial planner. We're going to ask him a couple things today. We're going to talk about planning as a business owner. He is a business owner himself, has a lot of experience with this, but we'll talk about some of the misconceptions, false assumptions about retirement that business owners often have. And then we'll get into fake news, right? There's a lot of headlines out there that might grab your attention, and we'll get Ryan to sort them out for us. So it should be a good show. Ryan, what's going on?
Good morning. Yeah, day after college football, so it was a good day. My Saturdays have changed over the years because my son, plays football, and the younger you are, the usually earlier in the day that you play. So I usually don't have to navigate much, with his games being over. Then it's like, okay, let's go home and go watch football. Now he's kind of midday. He's playing middle school football, or what they call feeder football, because it feeds into the high school system that they're probably going to go to. And yeah, so he had a game. He had a game at 11 o'clock yesterday. So obviously there was a big kickoff at noon between two powerhouses that I had to record and get home. So yeah, my Saturdays are still fun to watch, but I gotta navigate and kind of plan it out a little more. The days of turning on game day and sitting there doing nothing for 16 hours just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and I'm just glad the season's back underway. We don't have to talk about NIL for a little while. We don't have to talk about the possibility of a 2018 playoff coming in the near future. We actually talk about football instead. So glad to be here. But we got a great show. We're not going to hang up. You got plenty of opportunity to talk college football elsewhere. I want to get into some financial planning, retirement planning with you, Ryan. And of course, if you have any questions, I always encourage you, check out retireperfect.com. Jot down that website, retireperfect.com. There you'll be able to book a call with Ryan to follow up on anything we talk about today, but also just to begin that planning process. If you're getting close to retirement, haven't really started thinking about how all the pieces fit together, you can sit down with Black Oak Asset Management to help you figure out how to put a plan together and the best way to get to your retirement with the goals that you have in mind. Again, they have offices in Alpharetta, Macon, Lawrenceville, and now also in Ponte Vedra Beach, right? I know maybe that doesn't really pertain to everybody around the area listening, but I know some people travel down there quite a bit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to have one in another state. It's, when I first started this as the owner of this company, you just, when you first start out, you're like, okay, let me survive the day or the week or the month or whatever. And you kind of have some grandiose ideas down the road of what it's going to look like, but you're just not sure how it comes to fruition. And yeah, to be adding another location in another state is pretty cool.
Absolutely. So check it all out at retireperfect.com. All right, as I mentioned, let's start off with some talk about business owners, Ryan, because you are one yourself, right? I mean, you talked about just there about how it is a challenge and you're so hyper-focused on making the business successful that it's hard to think about retirement sometimes. And many times business owners put themselves in a difficult position there with retirement, don't they?
Yeah, they do. It's a quandary sometimes on being a business owner, which is great. You're your own boss, which is great, but it also can be terrible if you can't, shut those things off and turn it off when you get home, which, I do a better job of it. Am I still perfect at, turning things off when I go home? No, it's almost impossible. So I do try to put my phone up and set it aside, but I tell them, I'll show them my phone. I'm like, if I don't check this thing every so often and just quickly respond to this, I mean, this is what adds up.
Yeah.
So anyway, but that's getting better and getting better at, delegating those things and moving, putting things on other people's plate to help you out. But so yeah, it's a lot. It's great. I'm very grateful that I do own a practice, and it allows me to leave work at times where, if my kids have practice or games or whatever, I can move my schedule around to do that.
I like that. Well, let's dive into some of these misconceptions then, some of the false assumptions that business owners might have. Here's the first one. The idea that, look, if I execute my business plan, my retirement plan will also be taken care of as well. Do those things line up like that?
Yeah, I mean, when you first start out, that's kind of my long-term goals. Like, oh, I'll just do this and maybe never retire, or maybe scale back, or if I do, then I'll sell the business, or have my kids take over. I mean, there's all these things that kind of pop into your head, but you can't just solely rely on your blood, sweat, and tears, and then someone wanting to buy it and purchase it from you, and then you get this lump of money thrown in your lap, and then okay, boom, there's my retirement. It's just instantaneous, and is it possible? Sure, it is possible, but usually it's structured if there's someone is willing to buy your business, and there's probably a lot of business owners listening to this show, and it depends on what kind of business you have. Is it sellable? A lot of businesses are, but you can't just put all your eggs in that one basket of selling your business, and then that's going to take care of you for the rest of your life. It, again, very well could happen. That could play out that way, but you have to have a plan in place, as you add people. Is there a succession plan? Is there someone that could take over your business, or are you just going to outright sell it? Or again, my kids are too young to know what they're going to do with their lives. In the back of my mind, is it like, oh, my kids can work for me someday? But maybe they do, maybe they don't. Right now, my daughter's a freshman, and she shows zero sign of doing it. My son's a sixth grader, and I had him in the office, and I talked about purchasing, investments and stocks and all that. And he's like, oh man, this is really cool. So who knows, that could have started something in his head, but you have to have a specific plan, and you do have to establish retirement accounts. When I first started and I took over the business, no, I did not have a retirement account. Cause again, you're just kind of in survival mode, if you will. And then after a couple of years, it's like, okay, I need to start socking this money away, cause I see this income kind of annualized and residual, if you will. So setting up those retirement accounts, that's kind of I shouldn't even call it a fallback plan, because that's just what most people do. They work and they put money in a 401k and invest on their own. So that's what I've been doing. I've been setting money aside in retirement accounts, and then in non-qualified or non-retirement accounts that could work as a retirement account one day, but it's money that I can access and get to if I absolutely need to. So being super religious on putting that money away, being disciplined, and saving in your own retirement. And then if you sell the business one day, that's even an added bonus.
Yeah, we're going to get into that in just a second here, because there's another misconception around selling the business as well. But before that, Ryan, this idea of, okay, it's kind of similar to this first point, right? But if you focus so much on the business, that you put so much time, energy, money back into the business, you might not have a lot of money in the bank. But this idea and this misconception, or the assumption maybe, is that you're going to have a high net worth when you factor in the value of the business. But do you truly get the full value of the business, or is it usually worth as much as you believe it is as the owner?
Yeah, sometimes it's kind of like a homeowner. Maybe sometimes you think your home is worth more than what it is, because you have all this attachment to it and memories and so on and so forth. And it's kind of the same way in the business as well. So, in my type of business, in my advisory practice, there are plenty of companies out there, and not necessarily just in advisory services, but there's plenty of companies out there that will evaluate and show you what your business is worth. So you do usually need to hire an outside company to evaluate your books, and in our case, like the age of our clients, our total assets under management, our reoccurring revenue. I mean, just so many things go into it, expenses, all that. So there's companies that do that. So sometimes it could be worth what you think. Sometimes it's worth, a good bit less. But, it's if you're not attached to that business, what happens to that business? Are you too much of the face of the business? And we've talked about Dave Ramsey on this show. Obviously, Dave Ramsey's still doing very well, but you see that succession plan starting to take place. I mean, he's still the face of it. He still does his radio show and podcast and YouTube channel, but he's got other personalities. He's got other people on there. So, he's not going to live forever. None of us are going to live forever. So you have to start thinking about that and really seeing what the value of your business is. And a lot of times it's good to do this, several years even before you think you're going to potentially sell it. So we're kind of going through that with one of our advisors now, who may be transitioning out of the business just because he's getting older, and so we want to keep his book of business. So we're getting that evaluated right now. So it's an interesting experience. That this is the first time I've really gone through that, but yeah, sometimes people have so much money tied up into their net worth, into their business, and then their cash on hand isn't necessarily there. So for me, I always tell business owners, you really should have a year's worth of expenses socked away in an emergency fund, because again, you just never know what's going to happen to business, economy. So I usually beef up that emergency fund much, much higher than I would tell a household.
Gotcha. We're talking about planning for business owners. And if you are a business owner and haven't sat down to talk specifically about your retirement and how to put a plan together for that, Black Oak Asset Management can help you with that. Ryan is a business owner himself, has experience working with business owners. You can schedule a free consultation right there through the website at retireperfect.com. Again, retireperfect.com. Best place to begin having these conversations and start thinking ahead. You don't want to make some of these mistakes. You've worked so hard to put the time and energy into this business. You want to make sure you see the fruits of that labor on the back end. And speaking of the back end, I told you we talk about selling the business. This is the other part. I think a lot of times that owners just maybe assume that's going to be a little bit easier, right? That, hey, when I sell it, I'm going to make more than enough to support myself in retirement. But there's a lot of challenges that come along with selling the business, right?
There is, because it depends on if you have a private seller or, the buzzword of the last 5 years is private equity money. I mean, it's everywhere. So it depends if it's a private sale, there's not a lot of private owners that just are going to give you all this cash all at one time for the value of your business, because again, it depends on what type of business model you have. Those residual revenues, do they start to taper off because you're not involved anymore? Most of them have some kind of clawback, if you will. So it's like, yeah, you can sell the business to us, but you need to stay on for 2 years. That's kind of part of kind of the package deal, is you stay on, you nurture those relationships and do some introductions, and that's the way that could potentially work. But I recently got offered private equity money for my firm, and it's like, are you kidding me? Like, the amount of money they'll just throw in your lap, usually not necessarily all at once, but a huge heavy chunk, and then after a few years you get the other portion of it. So the amount of private equity money is just insane, and we dealt that on my wife's side of the business. She's a veterinarian, and she's been looking to buy a practice, and private equity is buying those things up too. You just can't compete a lot of times with the money that they throw out and the multiples that they're going to offer you for this business. So it could happen that way, where private equity comes in and buys your business, and then boom, they give you this giant lump sum, and that could work. But most of the time it's some sort of owner financing, where you get a little bit up front and then you get some residual. And then after a certain number of years, then as long as the businesses still have good revenues, then you get the back end amount. So again, it's possible to get a lump sum, but most of the time it's some sort of financing that takes place.
All right, last one here then is when you do sell the business, and if you think you're going to sell it to the family, right? Maybe the family's going to take over the business. You might assume they're going to take care of you. And that's maybe your retirement plan, Ryan. But again, that's an assumption that could put you in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, they can go smooth, but that's where you just got to be honest with them and be like, look, I'm talking to you right now as a owner of this business that I've built over the last 20, 30, 40 years, however long it is, and you're coming into a potential gold mine. So it's not going to just be I'm handing you the keys to the kingdom right away. So that's where you say, I'm not your dad right now. I'm a business owner. And if I'm going to talk to you, just like if you were someone else coming in here trying to buy my business. So it's going to be done. Attorneys are going to draw this paperwork up. It's going to be legally done, because it can get messy. It really, really can, if you don't lay those specific plans out of how this transition is going to go. And if you do that, and your kids are, that's who takes over your business, and your kids need to know, like, hey, this is a business deal right now. Sure, I want me to be taken care of, and I want you guys to have a great career and a business to run as well. But again, this is a business decision, and we're going to treat it like that. That way, our personal and family lives are going to go a whole lot smoother. So it's just got to be transparent and very specific, and know that it is a business deal and a business transaction. to leave your, feelings at the door. But then as soon as we leave that door, then we can re-engage our feelings for one another.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, again, if you are a business owner and you need to do some planning, start with retireperfect.com. Ryan, does that process is it much different, especially at the beginning when you book that free consultation at retireperfect.com? Is the process for you guys at Black Oak any different with business owners versus individuals?
The beginning stages, no, it's all pretty much the same in the very beginning. Business owners, there's a lot more balls in the air that we're going to have to juggle. So it's probably going to be more extensive meetings afterwards if we do get a client and they are a business owner, because there's just so many different things that you can do that not necessarily a person who's coming in that's, a W-2 employee and they're contributing to their 401k, and those are, I don't want to call it standard, but there's less kind of nuances, if you will, when it's that situation. But a person who's a business owner, between, employees and benefits and different types of retirement plans, and we get, potential CPAs involved because there's going to be business deductions, business write-offs. So it's a whole lot more, again, which I have learned since being a business owner. Just a whole lot more to it, more in depth, if you will. So it may take a few more meetings to really iron all this stuff out, but the beginning stages is all the same.
Yeah. Well, go to retireperfect.com if you are a business owner or you just want to begin planning. Now is the time to take steps towards your financial future, making sure you have a secure future as well. Again, retireperfect.com. All right, we're going to give Ryan some salacious financial headlines coming up next. He's going to tell us if they're fake news or not. You're listening to Perfect Game Retirement with Ryan Ledden.
Did you know that by 2030, women will control 67% of the stock market wealth? But for many, the journey to financial independence starts with resilience. And that's why Ryan Ledden and Autumn Mower co-wrote From Heartbreak to Financial Health, a guide for single women. This empowering book is designed to help widowed and divorced women navigate financial independence with confidence. It offers practical strategies for thriving beyond grief and building a secure, prosperous future. Request your free copy today by visiting retireperfect.com. That's retireperfect.com.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The first step toward your financial goals can feel monumental, but with the right guidance, your financial moon landing is within reach. Stay tuned for more insight.
Well, thanks for being here with us on Perfect Game Retirement with Ryan Ledden at Black Oak Asset Management. Again, offices all around Atlanta. So if you want to get in touch, go to retireperfect.com, set up a time, take advantage of that free consultation with the team at Black Oak Asset Management. And you can also send us in a question like Betsy did. Betsy is in Cartersville, has a question for us this week, Ryan. He says, how typical is it to set up your beneficiaries as equals? I have 3 children, but unfortunately have been estranged from one of my children for over a decade now. Should I still split their inheritances into thirds? I was considering setting it up so the other 2 children get 45% while the estranged one gets 10%, but will that cause huge issues for my children after I'm gone? So what do you think?
Good question, Betsy. It really, you know what? It's what do you want to do? It's your money. I just think, would I do a third? Probably not. I mean, it's been over a decade. The good thing about changing beneficiaries, that can be done really, really quick. So let's say this estranged relationship, then, you make amends and, it can be done. It can be changed and be like, okay, let's change this to make it a third. So I think that's where communication with your other 2 kids that you have a great relationship with, I think communication with them is key. That way they don't get surprised by what is left behind. You can also do a revocable trust if you want to include that estranged child in your estate plan. You can do a revocable trust and have one of your other kids as the trustee. And that way they get certain amounts of money over certain periods of time. If you want to, you can structure it however you want. So there are some options there. If you want to do the 45, 45, 10 from a percentage standpoint, that totally fine. Again, this is your call. It is totally up to you. I would have a conversation again, like I said, with your two kids that you have good relationships with and see how that goes. Or you can completely cut out the other one if you don't have a relationship at all. So a lot of options there. The good thing is you can change these things really quick, whether it's beneficiary forms on your accounts or your will or your even revocable trust, Betsy.
Great question, Betsy. Thanks for that. Again, if you have questions for Ryan, start by logging on retireperfect.com. All right, let's get into some fake news headlines. Again, we heard this term fake news thrown around all the time, so we're not going to get into a lot of the politics. I want to focus on some of the financial headlines that are out there, Ryan, that, a lot of people worry, is this real or not? And I'm going to start with Social Security. It's going broke. We hear it all the time, Ryan. What's the truth behind that?
Yeah, here going broke, or it's not going to be there when I get to retirement. Again, this is the federal government. They're going to figure something out. Now, again, what the headlines we see is that it's going to be a reduced benefit. I think it's by 2033 or 2034. I think that number seems to change a good bit, but they say your benefit is going to be reduced if it sits as is. They're going to do something else. They're going to change the full retirement age again, which they've done a few times. They could tax us more. There's so many things that they could potentially do. It's not going to go broke. It's a federal program. Politicians like to get reelected, so they're not going to just cut this thing out and say, oh, sorry, you've been contributing to this for 30 years and now we're going to take it away. So yeah, is it going broke? It is controversial, but calling it going broke, I think that's a little misleading, but there are going to have to be some adjustments that are going to be needed to be made, and who's that administration or Congress, or who's going to be the ones that change that. I mean, there's discussions now of moving the FRA, or the full retirement age, to 69. It's 67 right now, and they're saying that can make a big impact. It's kicking the can down the road, but it could make an impact. So we'll see, but it's not going broke. All
right, that's a good one to know. But either way, you want to have a plan for Social Security, and you could do that with Black Oak Asset Management. Log on retireperfect.com. Set up that free consultation and make that a priority, because you still want to make sure you have a plan for Social Security. All right, second headline here, Ryan. The crash of the dollar is imminent. You got to buy gold now.
And I've heard that. I've heard that a ton. When it comes to precious metals and gold, I see those infomercials of buying like an actual hard asset where you own that gold bar. And, if the dollar collapses, I don't think you're going to be carrying gold bars around to buy stuff. I just don't think that's going to be the case. The dollar is still the currency that everything is pegged to. I'm okay if people want some sort of precious metals in their portfolio, but I tell them I wouldn't recommend anything higher than 5%, if not 0, because the volatility of gold, like if you type in the ticker of a gold product or gold bullion, it shows how volatile it is. And it usually registers one of the highest ones that you can register. So it's is that, and I get it kind of moves sometime in opposite of how the stock market's doing, but I see these infomercials, put your entire IRA in gold, I think is ludicrous. I think it's not a good idea at all to do.
All right, great question. Great headline to kind of work through, because we always hear about gold all the time, and it gets getting the headlines. It's very loud when it cycles around, Ryan, for sure, so you notice it. Mm-hmm. All right, here's another headline. The nursing home costs poised to bankrupt millions of Americans. I know we talk about nursing home costs and just how it could eat into retirement. Could it bankrupt you?
I guess technically it could. It would have to take a giant bite out of your savings and what you do have. It is possible to do that. There's all kind of estate planning attorneys out there that help kind of with the transfer of assets from one family member to another, and I stay out of that, but there's like a 5-year look back on stuff like that. But nursing home costs, obviously they are what they are. They continue to get more expensive. So, people can self-insure by their savings. They can do life insurance policies that you can pay the death benefit with on long-term care while you're alive. Obviously, there's long-term care insurance. There are things that you can remedy to prevent bankruptcy. It is possible, but to bankrupt millions of Americans, I don't think that's the case. There are situations where it does, but if you plan ahead and you start thinking about these things early on, then it can be 100% preventable. Now, is it preventable from being expensive? No, but there's ways to get around it so you're not having to, quote unquote, go bankrupt.
All right, last headline, Ryan. I think we've been seeing this headline for a number of years now, but the recession is coming. All right, make sense of this for us. I know a lot of people are worried about recessions. You probably talked to a lot of people about, hey, what happens if a recession's coming? Is it coming? So what do you see, and what's your take on this headline?
Yeah, this is constant. I mean, this is clickbait. This is news headlines. I mean, the markets are, you see all these all-time highs as far as market. So there has to be a recession. There has to be. So I deal with this all the time. I even have clients go, okay, yeah, let's hold off on investing now because that, the recession's coming. It is. And I'm like, okay. I'm glad that these people that we sit down with have crystal balls, because I surely don't. But some people seem to think that they do. So are recessions coming? Yes, it is a matter of time. But the frequency that we hear about this stuff in the headlines is mind-numbing. It continues all the time. So again, this is where working with an advisor, kind of speaking and coaching people through this stuff, it hopefully prevents it. Because again, we saw something earlier this year where the markets tanked for a while because of all the tariff talks, amongst other things. And then look what's happened. So if you panicked and said, oh, here it is, then you've missed out on all this run up the last few months as well. So volatility is going to always happen. Recessions are going to happen. It's just, when are they going to occur? How long are they going to last? And how deep is it going to be? It happens. It happened in no one really called it in 2022, but the market got its butt kicked for the entire year in 2022. Mm-hmm. So it just depends on how people define it and how they want to go about doing it. Yeah, is one coming? Sure. But a lot of times it's not as imminent as most people think.
Yeah, I know that's been the worry for some time. But again, these headlines are meant to drive emotion, drive reaction, and that's not what you want to have in retirement planning, right? That's why you build a plan so you don't act based on every headline that's out there.
No, I mean, that's why we put, obviously as a certified financial planner, I am a certified financial planner. I'm an advisor, but I put that word coach in there because that's literally what we do, is coach people through these situations and look for opportunities and change allocations when we need to, but we're not going to jump in and out of the market. That's a loser's game. You're not going to win when it comes to stuff like that. But that's where you let emotions start to creep in. I feel like that's what we do a good job of, trying to separate ourselves from the emotion and look at the dollars and cents of it and allocate people properly. Because you may see a recession that, okay, the markets are down 22%. Well, your portfolio may be down 8%. And that's like, okay, you're not down what the headlines are telling you right now. So what's going on in your portfolio and in your life versus what's going on in these headlines that may not pertain to you at all?
Well, if you want to answer those questions, need help answering those questions, Black Oak Asset Management can help you with that. Log on right now, retireperfect.com. Again, retireperfect.com. You'll see the link right at the top to schedule the free consultation. You can also take advantage of the free ebook and retirement toolkit that we offer you for listening to the show as well. It's called Diffuse the Retirement Threat. You'll find it there on retireperfect.com and much, much more. But we got to get out of here. We appreciate your time this morning on the show. Ryan, as always, thanks for helping us make sense of some of this fake news and give us some guidance for business owners. We appreciate your time. As always, hope you have a good week.
Enjoyed it.
Information provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Please consult with a qualified professional before taking any action. Securities and registered investment advisory services offered through Silver Oak Securities, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Black Oak Asset Management and Silver Oak Securities, Inc. are not affiliated.